Chắc là mọi người cũng đã mệt, các anh các chị cũng đã mệt rồi, cho nên là em sẽ cố gắng để nói thật to, rõ ràng và sẽ đi vào những điểm hết sức cụ thể. Okay, so it is my honor to be here today and to be the moderator of this discussion. A quick introduction about myself. My name is Ha. I'm from Click, a digital agency, and we have been working in the digital and social media for 10 years. It is my honor to be here today, to be the moderator of this discussion. And joining here today, there are 4 well-known and very experienced marketers and brand builders in Vietnam. I listened to your presentations. There are a lot of interesting points and a lot of interesting indications that I can learn from your case. And I believe that a lot of people also have a very burning questions, how to win on social media. The bottom line of all conference, all the trainings, all the presentation will come down to what's going to be the tips for the marketers and brand builders to be successful on social media. Actually, before starting the questions, I would like to raise a fact that, a few weeks ago on Edwick magazine, there's a statement, and I very much agree with that. They said we are living in the golden age of user experience. So all the effort of brand now is very much focusing on simplicity, efficiency, and fast speed. So the digital and social media really place the power in the hands of the customers. Now they have the full control of what they want to see, what kind of the content that they want to engage with, what the products that they want to use. According to your opinion, because we know that there are a lot of brands and a lot of marketers here, they come from the FMCG, coming from the service, coming from a different industries, how to keep the customers and how to keep the audience to stay with them on social media. Because right now, everyone is offered with something new. Every day there's a new content platform. Every day there's a new technology. Every minute there's a new content formats. And people jumping from this brand to another brand, this conversation to another conversation, this brand page to another brand page. So the first question would be, what going to be the key factors and how we can keep our customers and our audience to stay with the brand on social media, according to your experience? So we're starting first with Hùng. Do you want to start first?
Thanks for a very interesting question. Actually, from our brand side, we think that the very first one that we have to stay authentic to what we stand for. I think that we have to make our proposition very clear and very inspiring and very relevant to our consumer. That's the first thing we have to do. And the second thing that we have to search for the passion point with the consumer. We have to tell our brand story in the consumer life. Because the consumer don't care about the commercial, don't care about the brand. They just care what they do care about. So I think the critical thing that we have to talk their language, talk something relevant for them, a part of their life. And the third thing that we shouldn't be always active. I think the problem is that all the brands are very, very active. And sometimes I think it's really annoying with the consumer. So actually, from our brand practice, we just focus on some key occasion, and then we make our story strong and bold, and get the consumer attention. And I think that they can accept our story more comfortable than always talk to them every day.
Very good point. So that means that we have to create and spend the effort to create the meaningful engagement in conversations rather than just pushing the product or pushing the branded message that we want. Right? Very good point. Authenticity. Ami?
I love the idea that you're talking about authenticity, because I think it's a really important point. When we were talking about brands and reputations earlier, this idea about not trying to be somebody else, not trying to follow somebody else. My view might be a little bit different. I would say a little bit controversial. That feels like Uber. I think when you're talking about how do you connect or how do you stay relevant on social media, I don't want our brand to only be relevant on social media. If you are a technology brand like we are, you need to be everywhere where your consumer or your user is. And so for us, because this is an app, it's about making sure that we are part of everyday life. Because if we are not solving for a specific need that is incredibly relevant and time sensitive, if we're not there right at that minute, certainly what we've learned in technology, if someone has to wait even for more than a few seconds, sometimes they'll change their mind. It's about making sure that irrespective of where you connect, if technology is the thing that connects you with your potential customer or consumer, you need to be there at the time when they are looking for you in a way that is meaningful and solves a need for them. So I think you're right when it comes to authenticity and the message and the process about how you choose the way that you connect. But for us, I think it's not just about social media. I think most brands will have a presence on multiple social channels. But if it's just about noise, I'm not sure that you really will stay connected with people. I think that's your point. There's so much noise that's out there. So I think it has to be more than just the thing that you say on that channel. How you engage with the community, you also have to back it up by being there when they need you. And that ultimately is going to come back to the product and the service.
I see. So relevant content at the right time, at the right context, right? This is what your point. Anh Ngọc Anh.
I think you came up with a very interesting question, but I want to look at this from a different perspective. To me, I think social media is always about channel, and the key thing is to engage with consumer is come back to the new concept. I would say is the brand share. So you have to be very transparent. You have to understand consumer properly in terms of motivation, in terms of aspiration, in terms of their concern. And at the end of the day, I would say that the proper way of doing that, you need to actually understand what is the share value between consumer and brand. Because if you're not able to understand the core value between what are the things is in common between the brand and also the consumer, and understand the expectation, I think it would be very difficult for us to actually keep engaging with them. And to me, like you said, I mean, social media is just a channel, and it depends on how you use a channel to be able to engage with consumer. That's my point.
For me, I think I echo a lot of what they say. If you start to think about the big brands like Apple, Amazon, Google, Facebook, like I don't think they started out the company thinking, how am I going to create a great brand? A lot of them start out the company thinking, what is this product that I'm going to create that's going to be really relevant and solve real world problems? And if I remain true to the fact that I'm solving real world problems, the brand will follow the product. It's the same case when you talk about iPhone, right? When Steve Jobs created the iPhone, I don't think he invested a lot in marketing. The product just markets itself. You walk into an Apple store, the product just sells itself, you know. So yeah, I think it's about creating a product that really solves people's lives and problems.
Yeah, the product is still the king, right? It is your point, your presentation in BT's case. It leads me to another interesting question. You know that technology really enables the faster experience. So users now growing impatient, you know, and they shift their preference from who does it best to who does it best now. So it is very important for the brand to act really fast in the digital era. And it is very important for someone, if you want to win in digital and want to raise a loyal base of your customer on digital or on social media, you have to act very fast. So any advice for the brands and for the marketers here to act fast in the digital era?
I think listening. You know, you have to listen. You know, you have to be able to actually listen to consumer and make it on an regular basis. And you would need to actually have a data. And the challenge for us is how are we able to actually get a data in time so we can respond quickly to consumer. So I think it's so important is to have a tool, a platform to listen to consumer constantly, so you can place the content right away with the right reaction.
So are you talking about the social listening that can provide you with the constant feedback from the internet about your brands and about your campaigns, right? So social listening actually is a tool that you can use at the regular basis for your brand to listen from the internet. It can scan all over the internet and collect all the comments, all the questions, all the concerns of the customer regarding your brands. It is a very useful tool for you to listen to your customers. Thank you for your advice. And what are the other data or platforms or tools that we want to mention here? Sure.
It depends. So basically, if you are talking about social media listening, you have a lot of the platform right now in Vietnam. I think you have a bus metric something.
We have a lot. We have several choices.
Yeah, we have several choices. So it really depends on the purpose and the goal that you want to do. For example, in my experience, refer back to the influencer marketing program. A lot of companies are trying to do it, and there's a process. Firstly, you have to map the influencer, but mapping is not enough because you have to be able to understand, listen to them, so you understand, what type of influencer share the same value with you. Because sometimes you think they are matched with you, matched with the brand tone and action, but in fact it's not. So be able to actually have a data to do deeper analysis, and then you're able to actually bring in the right people. So that's one example. So it's really depend on the purpose, goal, objective of the campaign that you actually use different kind of platform.
Yeah. Do you want to add?
Yeah. So we're talking about listening. I want to take a step back and talk about kind of from a startup and a technology perspective when you're thinking about how you move fast, how you move faster, what are some of the common principles. It's really interesting when you're talking before about this concept about real world problems and about how if you focus on that, everything else follows, which I think is a very true principle. When we're talking about listening to your customers, I don't know how many of you are working with a product that is a technology-enabled product, but one of the best ways that you can listen is to launch and iterate. So in the technology space, when you are an engineer and you are building, if you talk about an app, for example, engineers that are cutting edge launch and iterate, which means that they build on their product every 6 weeks. So you have a 6-week cycle of innovation. Why is it 6 weeks? Because once you put something out there, when we listen, we are listening to behavior by looking actually at the usage of the product through the technology and what it tells us about whether or not we are getting it right, where we are getting it wrong, and how we can make it better. Launching and iterating is one of the ways that you move faster because you do not have all of the answers. But if you are paying attention to what we call the feedback loop, the iterative loop, then you actually have this incredible gift. Because if users use the product, they teach you every single time about what works and what doesn't. And when users are incredibly direct, when they say, this is horrible, I hate this part of this, can you fix this thing? It's a gift for an engineer because it allows you to infinitely improve the experience when you're talking about the user experience. So the other thing I would say beyond kind of getting out there, getting people exposed to your product, letting them use it and learning from how they use it. There's another principle that I love that's very Silicon Valley startup. And the more that I talk to people in Vietnam, I think there's people here that do embrace this idea. If you're going to try and do something fast, get comfortable with the idea of failing. And if you're going to fail, guess what? Fail fast too, and learn, and then do it better the next time. If you are comfortable with the idea of failing, you'll actually do amazing things because there are no successful entrepreneurs that are only success stories. So getting comfortable embracing that idea, you can try things and they won't all work, but you will learn from them and you will be infinitely better as a result of it. That, to me, 2 of the reasons why you can be fast and be better.
Very good point, very good point.
Just want to add another back tip in response to the question of Ms. Ho Chi Han. Actually, with our brand situation like in BTS, we don't have a lot of budgets, a lot of resources for the listening, monitoring, for all the situation. I think in our team situation is we will like a lot of company here. So what we plan for that? The first thing that we always imagine and plan for the work scenario, and to decide so that in that scenario, so how would we respond to ensure that we under control for every situation happening. And the second thing that we dedicate exclusive team for the social media because for our category is a highly involved category. People respond very fast, and if they have something about our product, something about brand, they will speak up, and then we have the team to cater to them in the desired situation. Okay.
Because everything happening on social media is real time, and you need a quick reaction team in-house to react to what's happening on social media if you want to act fast and if you want to respond fast to your customers. So you share a very interesting information about the e-commerce, but what I want to raise a point here is not about the e-commerce idea, but related to social media, there's a new term of social commerce. So social commerce is also a trend, and it is also a big topic, what everyone is talking about. Exactly what is social commerce about? A few months ago when I was in Shanghai, people don't use cash to pay for the product. All the conversations, all the transaction is happening on WeChat, and WeChat is really big, and you just mentioned that. So actually, social commerce is a very great example of how the brand respond very fast in the e-commerce situations, and all the e-commerce brands and all the marketers, they really customize the campaign, really customize the marketing campaigns just to respond fast to the social media trends. So it is a very good example of, another good example of how the brand already customized the campaign to respond fast and to act fast on social media to win internet user. So it is another point. Do you have any comment on social commerce trend?
I think that there's a lot of opportunities there, but I would say that as an organization that's responding to these trends, it poses a challenge because previously marketing channels are relatively simple. You have TV, billboards, and maybe you have over-the-air channels and print media. But the rise of such new phenomena actually creates a lot of complications for marketers. Because then now we are thinking, well, what is the right channel to market? Should I do social commerce? Is it Facebook? Is it Facebook ads? Is it Facebook community groups? Is it influencers? Which influencers? It's just highly fragmented and highly complicated. But I would say if we can get on top of the nuances of each channel and really understand deeply what makes one channel tick and what doesn't, I think that's a huge competitive advantage to any organization that can master that.
This question inspired from Uber case. Digital ad lists such as Uber, Facebook, Airbnb, really creating a very innovative business models that giving the people the increased control. So now people have the increased control in terms of what they want to see, what they want to engage, what the product they want to use. But when they have more control, there's going to be either less control for the brand, or how we can control what we're going to say, what the message, what we're going to get, all the positive buzz and all the positive results for the campaigns. Do you want to share, because in your presentation you also share some slide about some point about the brand and the reputation always linked together.
Hi. Okay, I guess I would start by saying I think the idea that you are ever completely in control is really not reality. I think it's something we would like to tell ourselves. I think, very bold marketing people suggest that they are completely in control of everything, and then something happens and you have to adjust because actually you aren't in control. When I think about the example that you just shared, so, Uber has a partnership in China where we have, the largest ride-sharing partner there. We have 20%. We're the largest shareholder in their business. And we don't think of that as e-commerce anymore. We think of it as m-commerce, mobile. Even just the concept of the e-commerce platforms, which previously were about web portals, have evolved to being not just about the device in your hand, but the size of the screen and the number of clicks it takes. And to be honest, if it's more than 2, it's probably too many, just as one example. When I think about how kind of, in some ways, letting go of the idea that you are in control of everything changes the way that you behave, it means it actually puts more pressure, or in some ways it forces you to step up. From a business and from a branding perspective, from a product and technology perspective, from an accountability and a transparency perspective, if you realize that actually your fate is in the hands of the people who use you, and if they don't love the service that they are receiving, they always have another choice. Even in countries, for example, where we are the only ride-sharing operator, another choice is always available to people. It just may not be a technology-enabled one. So when I think about the idea of not being in control, ultimately it's if I do not put the absolute best thing in the hands of the people who I'm trying to influence, to your point, if they don't have the best possible product and service, if I can't figure out ways to make sure I understand what will make it even better for them than what they currently have now, I'm going to lose the love and the repeat business of that particular consumer group. So when I think about the idea of how WeChat, for example, or even Kakao, there's a number of different mobile platforms that are doing this now. We think about that as the app economy. And it's interesting, a lot of people talk about the sharing economy. I've also heard it described as the entrepreneur economy. This idea not just that you are sharing, what you already have, your existing assets, but that everybody has the opportunity to define the kind of engagement that they want to have when it comes to business transaction commerce. That's an incredibly powerful thing. When you talk about putting power in people's hands, it means that you choose. You dictate what products that you're interested in. You dictate what price you think is acceptable. You dictate what time of the day that someone has to be available to you and has to answer from a customer service perspective. You dictate whether or not a brand is going to be successful in a market, because once there is a conversation happening that is detrimental to that brand has to choose how they're going to react. So for me, when I think about this, if you embrace the idea that you aren't entirely in control, and that forces you to be inherently better daily, every day, you have to show up and you have to get better at these things, I think it forces the kind of innovation that actually does make lives better. I think it's certainly the thing that keeps us on our toes, and I think, the example before about something like Steve Jobs and Apple creating the iPhone. And I use this as an example a lot when I talk to people, as a lot of people describe Uber as a disruptive technology. And I want to make a distinction here. I think there's a difference between disruptive when you think about it as destructive, destroying something, versus creative, adding something, creating some kind of value or some improvement. If I think about something like the iPod, which most of you, I assume, have used before and have used in its many different iterations since it was launched, no one at the time was saying, I would like a tiny device that has hundreds, if not thousands, of songs in my pocket, because they didn't know what to ask for. And if Apple had waited until they had all of the licensing agreements with the music industry, it would have never launched. Now, did they believe that they would fundamentally change the way that the industry operates, how it commercializes content for music, and how consumers consume music and the kind of price point that is deemed acceptable? They absolutely believed it, and they went ahead and did it.
So it is a constant effort of the brand and marketers to act fast and to know the clients, to know the customer better, and also to impress them everywhere. So that means that to create a seamless, consistent experience that can have the positive impact on their behavior, right? So if you have any, advice on the brand with a small budget, because a lot of the clients and a lot of brands and marketers, when they think about digital channels and they think about digital campaigns, the first top of mind, thinking is always, okay, because I don't have enough money to spend on big TV budget. And is it true or not? If I have a small budget and digital should be the prioritized channel? Because I believe that a lot of people here have the same questions as well.
Well, for Shopee, that was definitely the case. So we went online and we leveraged all the free channels. And sometimes there are a lot of startups that also help. And so I guess if you don't have enough budget, make sure your product is relevant. It really solves, real problems, and leverage all the free channels available, and you'll see things take off, hopefully.
I have been often asked this question by lots of people, and I think in my point of view, if I think it's good marketeer or good brand manager is who's doesn't have much money, because I think money is always limited. I mean the resource is limited. So I think first, back to the question, I think the priority If you want to do something, I still prefer to actually do on social media. Why? Because it can be measurable. And actually, you don't have to spend so much money on social media. Second point is about creativity. Because you have to be more creative if you don't have money. That's for sure. Question is how you're going to do it. It depends on each organization. And the third point I would say is about you have to come up with something meaningful, a platform. Just like the thing I really like about the British campaign is about they have been able to actually figure out an angle that resonates with consumer. So it has to be something, just to be able to convince or to persuade consumer, something meaningful, something that been discussed a lot in the society, something everybody care about it. So you have to be part of that. Because if not able to be part of that, it's so hard for you to convince people around you. So I think be creative, create a value, really a value. And of course, prioritize digital because you can measure the money that you have spent. That's my point.
Yeah, I agree because social media is a two-way channels and it is very interactive channels. It allows you to listen to the customers, so you have chance to optimize your campaigns. If your campaign haven't run well, you know what to be fixed. Right? Also, it is very important when we talk about budget, because now when we talk about budget, it always goes to the KPIs. Right. So what should be the KPIs that we expected? Because on TV and on traditional channels, the KPIs are already familiar. It hasn't changed for maybe like 100 years. Yeah, sorry, I over-dramatize a bit. However, with the digital, the KPI change constantly. And now with the birth and the word of mouth becomes the top or significant KPIs that all the brands, they aim at. So social media, the answer for the brand who now considering social media, whether or not within a very tight budget, social media is a really highly recommended channel. Home, do you want to add in any point? I see your eyes like lighting up.
Yeah, because of the question is very difficult, very challenging. Actually, I have a friend who is the founder of Brands Vietnam. And I sometimes talk to him that what if we have some kind of industry media to pick out the typical campaigns, the typical cases. We can show to the market the benchmark, the benchmark KPI with some relevant budget like ABC, then we have the relevant KPI ABC. Of course, we know that we have to optimize, but we need a benchmark. I think that will be the top of some local industry media that they can enter and so give a clearer picture to all the marketers.
So if every brand take the BT's case as a benchmark, there's going to be a really big challenge for other brands as well, right? To keep up.
Yeah, actually, I talked to a lot of my friends that the campaign was a big luck, and you shouldn't treat it as benchmark KPI. Yeah, it's very tough to get it.
So now I see we have a lot of questions here, and now before moving to the questions from the audience, you all have the questions, Anh, Amy, and Hùng, and Pai. You have a lot of questions here. But before moving to the question, we would like to talk maybe a few minutes about the trends, because now we start talking about what's going to be the trends in 2018 that rule the digital practice. Each of you, can you name the top key trends that you think the most important for the marketers and brand builders they should know for next year?
Well, in my view, I think the rise of this, I think a lot of people, what they coin it as digital 4.0, which is the rise of digital technologies and how it pervades across all industries. I think this will continue to go, will continue to be very significant. This will also create a lot of new jobs and new talents for people. So I would say for young people that are looking for exciting opportunities in the field of data science, reading and analyzing data, I think there are a lot of opportunities there for people, not only for marketers, but also employment opportunities. I think that's actually a good sign.
So you mentioned about a trend, right? Social media trend.
Yeah, the trend, the digital trends.
There's a couple of trends I would think that sooner to be affected in this market. I think just 3 channels that I just mentioned is about immersive content. Video is one of this, but immersive content is, I think, it's become pretty trendy very soon because of the effect of AR and also VR. I think this become more popular. Influencer marketing and also, I mean, the revolution in terms of SEO because the way that Google algorithm of Google and evolves right now, that would make more challenge for the marketer. So I think there's a revolution in terms of SEO. So marketers should be able to catch up that because the key, you know, what we have been doing with SEO is more about keyword, but not anymore with keyword. So that's the thing that we have to know about it. The fourth is about the dark social, I mean the chatbot, and also when we have a tea break, somebody come to me and said, you haven't mentioned about, you talk too much about B2C, but in fact, with social media, B2B is gonna change. And I quite agree with him. I said that, you know, maybe next time if Forbes have another event, I'm talking about B2B disruption. Because with social media, it's gonna completely change the way that we're doing from business to business.
I feel like all the good things have been taken. No. I wholeheartedly agree with my learned colleagues. I wanted to just respond. This is not so much a trend, but maybe when we're talking about benchmarks before. What's interesting to me when you talk about things like what do companies that are potentially at early stage and that don't have a lot of resources, how do they think about where to invest? I don't know if this surprises people in the room, but you know, when I think about the time that I worked at Google, for the first 7 years of Google's business, they didn't spend a cent on marketing, not a single dollar. They didn't have marketing professionals. They didn't have a marketing department. And that's actually a story that you hear from a lot of startups in Silicon Valley, that they were not actually starting from a place where they thought that that was the right investment. They wanted to build the best possible product and have the product speak for itself. I think when you get to a certain size that it's not enough to only just be allowing the product to organically evolve, which is why these kind of tools are important. But I think for anyone that's thinking, you know, I don't have the resources, I don't have the staff, you know, there are some pretty amazing examples of folks who came before you in this space that have actually carved out a different type of benchmark with that very much, you know, product-focused or customer-first type of principle.
Customer always come first.
Actually, from our team Backstep, that we are really interested in dark social. You see, because nowadays some platforms like Facebook, they become the newsfeed platform, and actually we are interested that the consumer, what our consumer really talk about in the private group, and I think the privacy will be the very big unmet need of our consumer in the future. I think that's create a lot of opportunity for the marketing and the branding in such kind of platform.
Yeah. I would like to add in 2 points. It is the user-generated content is going to be the trend for next year as well. It has been the trend, but it is really a booming trend for next year with a booming user-generated content platform. So we experience Instagram or the boomerang is kind of, you know, allowing people to produce a short form video. Now they don't talk about 3-minute or 5-minute video anymore. They talk about 10 seconds, 11 seconds, or 12 seconds. And it allows people to customize, to create the content themselves. The second word that may be considered as a trend for next year is the broadcasting. Because broadcasting happening everywhere, on Facebook channel, on Instagram, on YouTube, because everyone can become the broadcasting channel. And everyone can be, their point of view, their voices can be seen and heard by the community. So I would like to add in those 2 keywords, user-generated content and broadcasting. Okay, so now we move to the question part.
Dạ vâng, xin được mời tất cả quý vị trong khán phòng. Dạ vâng ạ, chúng ta sẽ có khoảng hơn 5 phút để chúng ta có thể đặt câu hỏi dành cho ban điều hành cũng như những diễn giả trong ngày hôm nay. Xin được nhờ. Vâng ạ, em mời anh Triều.
Hi everyone, my name is Triều Nguyễn from UNET Media. So I'm the guy you just talked about social listening, actually. So my question is about, we know that we heard a lot about data-driven marketing, right? About insight-driven marketing. But as I see from the presentation from Hong, about BTS, that's a great campaign that we monitor, we understand. But you mentioned a lot about creativity, more than about data insight. So would you believe that somehow, someday, data and insight will replace substantially the role of creativity in marketing, communication, strategic planning, and execution? Do you believe so? Thank you.
Thanks for the question. Actually, that if you see in our presentation, we also mentioned that we have some clue from the social monitoring, some clue from the social data, that we find out that the tension of traveling or going home is a big tension for the real estate. And but as a marketer, we just back to the basics. We actually just personally, I don't believe much in the quantity data. Actually, I want to see in the qualitative data. I want to see, so actually what's conversation happening, what is the real content, what is the real thing, what is the real concern. So how I say, I think the data is really important. But we have to see the data more in terms of quality insight instead of quantity insight. And especially if you want to do something disruptive, I think that you have to go beyond the consumer data, because we have a very famous sentence like, consumer don't know what they don't know. Yeah, so if you just use the current insight, you will have the normal result. And if you want to do something surprising, you have to go beyond that. You have to look into more in depth of their data, of their question, of their behavior, of their, especially in dark social. Yeah, I'm really interested in the dark social behavior, and just want to know how can we assess that kind of data, because I do believe that it provides great insight. Even the consumer don't know, or they are not self-aware of what their real deep motivation and desire from the within. Yeah, so I think that would be my answer to Mr. Chew's question.
The next one. About data and creativity. Okay.
I think you asked the right question, because I think that data and creativity is quite relevant. I think it's so important that you cannot be creative because creative for something, because you need to have a data to actually understand more consumer, and we are trying to be creative just to meet the demand of a consumer. So data and creativity, I think, cannot separatable.
I think that the data is always the first step to get the insights, and the strong idea or strong creative idea always come from a really good insights. So to be able to have a good creative idea, we need to have a strong insights, and strong insights always start with data, and data is very important.
Yeah, we talk a lot about being data-driven, and I think that that's this concept that you are anchored in the data. It keeps you honest. It at least gives you something to start with. It gives you the foundation. But I also think it's important that you are not creativity constrained. Because I think if you really are going to be doing exciting, different, bold things with your brand and changing behaviour and kind of going into a new space, to your point, I think you can't do that unless you actually are really pushing the boundaries of creativity. And that involves you taking some risks. And when we talk about taking risks, I mean, they have to be data-driven risks, because you want to be exercising some degree of calculated risk. I think that's where that combination comes in.
Yeah, we still have questions on the big screen. Yeah, please have us.
Cái này nó hơi bị lệch, nhưng mà chắc cũng đoán được là anh Hùng có thể cho biết là tổng chi phí cho dự án MV Lạc Trôi của Sơn Tùng chiếm bao nhiêu % so với doanh thu bán giày Hunter sau chiến dịch của anh? Có nghĩa là anh có lời không, hay là anh lấy hết tiền để anh làm MV rồi?
Câu này là xoay thẳng vào vấn đề.
Cái câu trả lời như thế này, thứ nhất là từ cái giai đoạn planning á, thì team của BTS là xác định, có thể chia sẻ là nó dưới 5%. so với cái doanh số mong muốn. Nhưng mà mọi người cũng biết cái bài presentation nãy chia sẻ rồi đó, có nghĩa là doanh số cấp 3 nó rớt xuống còn có khoảng 1 chấm mấy thôi. Và đặc biệt là cũng share mọi người là cái sản phẩm nó bán không chỉ ở tháng 1 thôi, mà nó còn kéo đến tháng 6 nữa. Nên bây giờ nên cái investment nó trở nên rất là nhỏ so với cái impact mà đem lại.
So we have a question for anh Ngọc Anh. So you just said that Instagram is a new trend for all the marketers after Facebook. So can you please explain more about that? Did you say that?
Có trong cái bài trình bày của tôi thì tôi có chia sẻ là cái mạng Facebook vẫn là dominant ở Việt Nam. Tuy nhiên mà Instagram thì số lượng người sử dụng càng ngày càng tăng ở Việt Nam. Và đối với các chương trình mà đối với các cái influencer thì họ vẫn theo nghiên cứu của Hiệp hội Quảng cáo Mỹ thì họ vẫn cho rằng là Instagram là một cái nền tảng rất là tốt để mà chia sẻ về đối với người tiêu dùng, và đồng thời họ cảm thấy là riêng tư hơn so với Facebook. Ở Việt Nam thì tôi đã thấy rất nhiều các cái người nổi tiếng có mặt trên Instagram, phần lớn tất cả các người nổi tiếng đều có mặt trên Instagram. Và tất nhiên là khi mình sử dụng cái ảnh hưởng của họ thì mình phải có mặt ở đó, tất cả các thương hiệu đều có mặt ở đó. Thì đây là ví dụ riêng của chúng tôi thôi, tức là khi chúng tôi làm về ngành thực phẩm, tức là F&B á, thì lúc đầu tôi nghĩ rằng là có lẽ không cần phải có mặt trên Instagram, nhưng mà thực ra chúng tôi nhầm, bởi vì là tất cả những consumer mà trong cái đối tượng mà ăn uống theo cái nhu cầu mới chẳng hạn, hay là về thời trang chẳng hạn, thì họ đều quan tâm. Và nếu như mình có tạo ra hình ảnh đẹp, những cái portfolio rất đẹp về sản phẩm thì chắc chắn là thu hút rất nhiều. Và tôi có biết một trường hợp mà một bạn nữ làm một cái thương hiệu rất là tốt, và bạn ấy chỉ dùng Instagram để mà marketing sản phẩm. Và bạn làm rất là tốt, chỉ dùng Instagram để marketing sản phẩm, nhưng mà phải làm đẹp và sáng tạo.
Rất là cho Hùng add on cái câu trả lời của anh Ngọc Anh, bởi vì ngành hàng của tụi Hùng thì có cái insight relevant. Tại vì cũng share mọi người là Instagram mặc dù bây giờ cái consumer base á, họ vẫn còn rất là nhỏ với Facebook, nhưng mà hiện giờ nó là cái platform rất là relevant với những cái ngành hàng về lifestyle. Ví dụ như là kiểu như là sneaker cũng như beauty center là tụi Hùng bắt đầu đã promote trên Instagram và thật sự là rất là successful. Và tụi Hùng cũng biết là rất là nhiều cái kiểu như là fashion boutique store họ cũng đang rất là bán được hàng trên Instagram tốt hơn rất nhiều của Facebook. Thì cái sharing của Hùng là Instagram nó cũng là một cái good platform, nhưng mà chắc là nó sẽ relevant với những ngành hàng mà lifestyle hơn.
Đúng. Mình đi đến câu hỏi tiếp theo nhé. Câu hỏi tiếp theo, tôi là chủ một công ty startup về lĩnh vực nhà hàng. Xin cho biết làm sao tôi có thể đo lường được mối quan hệ giữa chi phí dành cho quảng cáo trên mạng xã hội mà tôi bỏ ra với doanh thu bán hàng như thế nào, nhất là khi tôi đang trong giai đoạn lập kế hoạch cho phòng brand marketing. So the question is about he's the startup in the restaurant business and he wants to see and he wants to get the advice from the percentage between the budget for social media. How much is gonna take, the percentage between the budget for social media and the revenue that he can make. Do you have any advice for that? So it is a question of you, right? Or someone from your team asking that question.
Cái câu hỏi này rất là thú vị. Thứ nhất ấy, là mình là startup ấy, thì cái chuyện tiêu tiền chắc là phải rất kỹ rồi. Thế cho nên là thực sự mà nói chúng ta sẽ không có cái benchmark là chúng ta sẽ dành bao nhiêu % số tiền cho cái phần mà trả tiền trên mạng xã hội. Nhưng mà tuy nhiên ấy, tôi nghĩ rằng là chúng ta sẽ cần phải có một cái, đầu tiên chắc là lời khuyên là phải có mặt trên Facebook, fanpage. Cái đó là cái rất quan trọng. Và chúng ta sẽ cần phải trả tiền trên Facebook để đẩy cái content của mình đi ra. Nhưng mà có một cái chi tiết mà tôi nghĩ rất là lưu ý, và cái này cũng là kinh nghiệm thực tế. Tức là gì, là cái việc anh trả tiền trên Facebook, đây là câu chuyện của startup, chúng ta không build brand lâu dài. Tất cả những startup đều quan tâm đến chuyện là có bao nhiêu khách hàng đến cửa hàng, tức là customer acquisition ngay lập tức. Thì đây sẽ là một trong những cái yếu tố chúng ta rất là cần cân nhắc. Bởi vì là chúng ta trả tiền để trên Facebook để mà làm cái thương hiệu chúng ta lâu dài, nhưng mà chúng ta phải sống trước khi mà chúng ta có thương hiệu tồn tại. Thì chúng ta cũng phải cân nhắc giữa việc là trả tiền trên Facebook và làm thế nào để mà đưa khách hàng tới cửa hiệu để mà dùng dịch vụ chúng ta ngay. Thì đấy là cái chia sẻ.
Và tỷ lệ chính xác là bao nhiêu thì bạn có thể gặp anh Ngọc Anh sau cái buổi ngày hôm nay.
Không có tỷ lệ chính xác.
Okay,
So we run out of time. Actually, we have more questions coming up on the screen, but maybe we're gonna get the questions, and you can all email us. And because you have the email address, I see your hands raising, but unfortunately, the question and answer panel, we run out of time. So now, to give the summary of what we have been discussing about, and we hope that we can answer your questions of all the brands and marketers today. How to win on social media. So first of all, to act fast, to know your customer better, and also to be ready to impress them everywhere, to wow them everywhere. That is very much sum up of our discussion. You can use data, you can use technology, you can have a quick reaction team in-house to be ready for that. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you for sharing a lot of useful and informative, very useful information. There are a lot of indications for the marketers and brands today, I hope. And I hope that for the next session, if we have longer time, maybe like 2 hours, we can, tackle more questions. Okay, so thank you everyone.
Và xin được cảm ơn chị Hải Hà đã điều phối viên chương trình, và xin được cảm ơn các vị diễn giả rất nhiều, và xin được mời quý vị sẵn án lại để chụp hình lưu niệm. Thank you, Mr. Sammy. Và xin được mời bà Chu Thị Thu Hằng, tổng biên tập báo văn hóa ấn phẩm Forbes Việt Nam, lên sân khấu để trao tặng hoa dành cho điều hành của phiên panel lớn của chúng ta ngày hôm nay, đó là chị Nguyễn Thị Hải Hà, giám đốc điều hành và đồng sáng lập của Click Media. Một lần nữa xin được cảm ơn sự chia sẻ của tất cả 4 vị diễn giả ngày hôm nay, cũng như là phần điều hành phiên thảo luận lớn của chị Nguyễn Thị Hải Hà. Thưa quý vị, và Forbes Talk tháng 8 với chủ đề xây dựng thương hiệu trong thời đại truyền thông và xã hội. Xin được cảm ơn rất nhiều sự hỗ trợ của các đơn vị. Xin được cảm ơn Camuda Land, Module Life Việt Nam, Công, Shopee Việt Nam, Brands Việt Nam, câu lạc bộ 2030, Golden Focus Media và VITV. Một lần nữa xin được cảm ơn tất cả quý vị khách quý đã cùng tham dự vào Forbes Talk Việt Nam ngày hôm nay với chủ đề những câu chuyện thương hiệu vào tháng 8 2017. Cảm ơn quý vị rất nhiều.